This week on the Droids, The Mandalorian is back, Season 2, Episode 1, Chapter 9, The Marshal. We're talking about it this entire episode. Oh, it's so good to have The Mandalorian back.
Sam, I got this. Don't wake the baby.
Welcome back to the Droids You're Looking For, a Star Wars podcast. That's right, we've got our own baby Yoda along for the ride with us. Sam, so glad that you brought a baby Yoda with you for this episode.
Yeah, I'm kind of lone wolf and cubbing it here in the studio. And by studio, I mean just one of the rooms in my apartment.
Well, your wife has gone on vacation, yes?
Yeah, she flew off to, what did she say? Was it Tatooine or Dantooine she was going to? I can never tell.
Oh my god. I still can't find Tatooine. I didn't know that they sold cigarettes and scratch-offs on Tatooine.
Well, gentlemen, this is a phenomenal day. The Mandalorian is back. The show, we've got a chance to finally greet one of the new great heroes, the new legends of Star Wars that has now taken a special place in our heart. Of course, I'm talking about Constable Zuvio. Zuvio is back. He's in the flesh, and in this episode, Zuvio reigns supreme. So thrilled to have our good Constable back and working again.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah, wait, what?
Is that true?
Constable Zuvio, you guys didn't catch him?
No.
I definitely did not catch him. Where was he?
Zuvio is in the crowd at the Ring of the Gamorrean fight in the beginning of this episode.
No way.
My God.
Now let me go back and see.
I'm dying to know.
Chris has a dispatch at the end of this episode. He wasn't... I don't know if he noticed.
I'm dying to know. No, I'm dying to know if Chris has the action figure. Because he's talked it up, and that's like... it's gonna go up in value immediately.
That's true.
All right, I'm doing a little bit of a playback here. The only thing that I could be wrong about is it could be a Zuvio minion, because it's the same outfit that the other Zuvio, while the rest of his clan was wearing. But I want to try to find the dime
Zuvio?
What's the
I don't
question?
think we do.
Somebody famous played Constable Zuvio, didn't they?
Did they?
Oh, yeah, it was,
Also, cool thing, the Cyclops dude at the beginning of this episode was John Leguizamo.
Yeah, John Leguizamo. That was I was trying to place the voice and I couldn't, and that was a very cool addition as well.
Oh, he was the dude who gets strung up?
Yes.
Nice.
That was a great moment. I guess we'll go through the episode a bit. That was a great moment when he shoots out the light and all the red eyes. I thought that's a cool Star Wars thing to do.
Yeah, and it was set up well early on, and as you said, we'll go through the kind of whole thing, but just like to slowly see those eyes as he was walking in.
Yeah, it was just a great visual, and like to have it just says so much about the characters. Like the Mandalorian knew that they were there the whole time.
Okay, so here we go. We've got Zuvio at about 5. I'm going to say 5:12 on the time code here.
And
he is in shade, in darkness. So I could, again, you could argue it was just like, Zuvio's family member. Okay, no, I got it at 5:14. I guess you can't see his eyes. He's wrapped pretty tightly, but I gotta say it's a Zuvio.
Believe in something. We gotta believe in something. He only visits. Well, actually, no. So he's not on Tatooine yet. We don't know what that first planet is. Yes.
No, we're not clear on what that first planet is.
Could be Jakku.
Which
could
is kind of a
very well be
shame,
CBJ, baby. CBJ could be Jakku.
I would have spent some time on that planet. Oh, hello.
Oh, the child has spoken.
Here's the child.
Those are some cute sounds, I gotta say.
They seem. I mean, are they Disney copyrighted already? That's pretty quick that they did that. Any kind of baby noise right now is copyrighted as for Disney as the child.
So Bob Iger actually, I think Sam went on mute because the helicopters are circling. Bob Iger's coming to get him.
Well, we should say as we begin this episode, Ryan and Sam, that this is going to be spoiler heavy. We're diving in to season 2, episode 1, a 54-minute episode. We talked a little bit about how some of the episodes were quite short in season 1. And I think in season 2, I'm sure we'll have some shorter ones as well. But to dive in at 54 minutes was a real pleasure. But we'll be going through all of season 2 with breakdown episodes. Of course, our anticipation episode also dropped earlier today. So you've got even more predictions you can hear from us, predictions for the whole season. So some of that is still very much in play after this first
before
episode.
And after listen, though.
Yeah, you can get a little bit of both, which is a fun way to experience The Mandalorian. But of course,
I
follow
like to
us
have
on
my
Twitter.
dessert first.
Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Droids Pod on Twitter and Instagram. The Droids Podcast on Facebook. DroidsPod@gmail.com. Of course, the Jedi Fallen Order playthrough of Ryan on Droids Pod for YouTube. Email us, droidspod@gmail.com. Rate and review us on iTunes. So let's dive in to season 2, where we last left The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian had left Navarro after having vanquished the entire Imperial force that was there under our good friend Werner Herzog's character, and then defeating, for the moment, Moff Gideon by taking down his TIE fighter. Gideon removes himself from the TIE fighter by using the dark saber, and seems to be on his way hellbent to continue to find his chase for Baby Yoda. But we pick up in what seems almost like, say, a middle episode of season 1. You know, here's this individual adventure for the Mandalorian where he's going to help out a town. But we begin by him being on a planet of unknown origin. Could be Jakku. What was it again? CBJ?
CBJ. Could be Jakku.
CBJ. Could be Jakku. So a CBJ out there. And it's a slow walk through a alleyway with a bunch of graffiti of stormtrooper helmets and red eyes staring down Baby Yoda and the Mandalorian before he makes his way into the fighting pits. So I think this was the moment in the trailer where we had talked about that this looked a bit more like the volume than some of the other things that we'd seen. You could just kind of tell.
That opening shot where he steps
Yeah.
basically into a spotlight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think as that moved forward, and really the rest of the episode, and we don't need to jump ahead to talk about the whole episode yet, but like I thought the scale of this episode made the volume dissolve a bit for me, which was really thrilling that they kind of made it epic enough that I was not paying attention to the seams of the volume. And I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I didn't, aside from that one shot, I didn't even think about it again. And like I was very aware that they used the volume for this, although they did most production, or almost, I think they did all the production before the pandemic, so
Yeah.
they didn't have to. But I was very aware that that was a tool they were using, and I didn't even think of it again.
Which is, I think, very cool, because I thought
Yeah.
that now that we'd seen the behind the scenes from Disney Gallery and we saw how they used it, I was like, oh man, I'm going to be paying so close attention to this. It's going to be so clear. And I think the difference, they're on Tatooine for this episode again. And we saw Tatooine in season 1, and Tatooine, especially when they're out in the Dune Sea, it felt very much like, okay, here's the actual sand they laid down in the volume, and there's the volume in the background with it just being a screen. And it just didn't quite look natural. Not the case in this episode. And I was very impressed.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. Whatever they did, it worked.
So did we think, and Ryan, you were spot on with the race for Ahsoka, or the alien species. Was that a Twi'lek, or was that a similar
That
to
was a
Ahsoka?
Twi'lek.
That was a Twi'lek
Yeah.
to enter into the fighting pit that we saw as the Mandalorian made his way in.
Yeah, so, sorry, I'm looking it up now, because, am I wrong? No, that was a Twi'lek. Yeah.
It looked like a Twi'lek.
I thought that this was a fun way to open the episode. It's obviously, it's kind of inconsequential where they said it, other than that it kind of gives the MacGuffin of the season, which is cool that they established like he's delivering Yoda to what he has learned or Jedi. I love that they keep referring to them as sorcerers. There's a thing about that I love in Star Wars, that people, the kind of ambiguity of the Jedi, people still refer to them as sorcerers sometimes.
It's almost like they're still not ubiquitous enough. Like you don't see them enough that you can't think of them as anything but sorcerers.
Sure, especially on the Outer Rim, because it's like they're in Coruscant. They're like in the capital. It's like very possible that they've had no experience with them.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows how the capital treats them? Are they like an open secret? I don't know.
We didn't get enough time on Coruscant. I think we need Coruscant the series.
Yeah. And I thought it was a fun opening. I mean, like it was the Gamorrean guards, yes?
Yep.
Well, they're Gamorreans. I don't know if they were
These
guards,
were a bit
but
trimmed down Gamorreans, we'd have to say, right?
sure, yeah, they look good. They look
Yeah,
good. Like they've been putting in the work.
They've been pumping their axes.
Yeah. It's fun in the world of fiction. I think it's a barbaric thing to be doing. But John Leguizamo played that Cyclops guy. I thought he was, he's a great character actor, so it's cool to see him there.
Was the Cyclops character? So was John Leguizamo's character? Was he modeled after like an action figure or like an offshoot action figure from the Kenner line at some point? I swear that was, or was that just an alien species that we'd seen in like, I don't know, a background shot of Empire or something?
I feel like we have seen it.
It's a really good question because I can't place it either, but I do feel like we've seen it. Not necessarily action figure, but more that we've seen it.
In my mind, genuinely, I was like, this was never in the movies, but it was like an action figure that like they made. And then this was like, that would be to me a very like specifically Favreau thing to do, to be like, I don't know, prove he's a fan by being like, look, that action figure we all had that wasn't ever a part of anything now is
that's exactly what he did in the season 7 episode, or episode 7 of season 1, because they brought in the stormtrooper. What was that? The troop carrier or whatever it was. That was only an action figure, and then they made it actually part of the show.
I remember that vaguely. Yeah, I'd forgotten that, but yeah, you're right.
I mean, you're spot on. That's something he does.
They are using the whole cow.
Speaking of that, I mean, eventually at the end of the episode, we see them using the whole cow again.
Oh my God.
But we'll get there.
I love a bantha. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What did you guys think of the? What did you guys think of like the actual sort of like stunt, like the choreography, the fighting in the opening? I thought
it seemed like they gave him 3 or 4 moves and just kind of laid it on repeat.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I liked, and I couldn't really remember, was I did like that it was just like actual like fisticuffs. Like I did like that, like the Mandalorian actually got down to like some hand-to-hand combat.
I thought you meant the Gamorrean guards.
Oh no! So I thought that was really dumb.
Which I thought was like a strange question, but I answered it anyway.
I thought that I didn't like that. I would have liked it if they didn't have axes. I'm like, it's a boxing ring.
And shields. It was weird.
It's a boxing ring for an axe fight. This is so stupid. I really didn't like it.
I did like the fight. The thing that I liked about the Mandalorian fight the most is the small character things that they did to establish that time has passed. To me, like that's the best thing about Star Wars sequels. Is that
what's an example?
Specifically, it was in the trailer, but like when the Mandalorian brings out, what are they? They're called like whistling.
Whispering birds.
Whispering birds. When those come out and Baby Yoda like hits the button to like close his little thing.
Sorry.
It establishes like.
I think it's whistling, not whispering. Sorry.
Hey man, it's okay.
No. Chuck this. Let's take it from the top. Welcome back to the Droids You're Looking For, Star Wars.
When he closes the canopy on his little carrier, it establishes like he knows the drill.
Yeah.
He's been through this enough. They've been on like adventures that we are not privy to.
And
they're little pals. They're much more comfortable together. Like the Mandalorian, he carries Baby Yoda around like a matter of fact now. Like this is my baby.
A couple of things. A couple of things that I liked from this. One, and it comes up a couple times in the episode, but they use like quest as a verb, which clearly is something in Mandalorian culture. Like he's been quested to do this, which I thought was just like an interesting, like very kind of deft, like screenwriter shorthand to be like, see, this is lore now. You know, like instead of saying like I've been sent on a quest. Or I've been anything, like it's just like, oh, I've been quested to do this. And it's like, oh, that's like a Mando thing. And I thought that was really cool. And I also I brought up the combat because I like that they're really playing up the Beskar armor in this episode throughout. And it's like its value and its kind of invulnerability and imperviousness. And I like that like in his hand-to-hand combat, he like uses the fact that he has like a literal like steel jaw to like not like he just lets people like punch him in the head, or he like punches with his head a couple of times. And I was like, that's if I were Wolverine made of adamantium or something, like I'd do that too. I thought it was great.
Well, the thing to me about this scene is it just felt like, okay, we're putting you back in the world. You haven't watched this in a while. Maybe, yes, you might have gone through a rewatch. Yes, you might have watched the recap that was posted on Star Wars Twitter and YouTube. But let's just reestablish where we are and what the point of this season is going to be. And to do that in a pretty short scene, which kind of, as you talked about, Ryan, shows a little bit of maturation, a little bit of development of who they are together now, but yet reminds us of who we've been watching, is a fun way for us to get back into the show. And that's like, it reminded me of the way that they got us in initially, where that was that opening scene in the cantina on that ice planet, is like, let's begin this by giving you something familiar, but establishing new rules. Whereas this one was almost like, hey, you've seen it before, but let's get you back into the feel of this whole show. And so I thought that was a fun way to do it. And I think, Whistling Birds to begin with was, again, it's like, this, let's see it again, and let's see a different twist on it. I thought that there were elements of that fight for Mando where I was like, okay, this just looks like stage fighting. But then there were also moments where it looked great, especially when he used his dagger twice. Like I liked that portion of it. And then as he came out and chased him down and strung him up, I think that was a great way to end it, and almost in the cold open sense of what this episode had, because I feel like we've got now kind of a lot of cold opens before they do the title in these Mandalorian episodes. That was a great way to end the cold open.
Yeah,
I agree. I liked this cold open. I thought there was I'm torn because while I was watching it, I actually thought like, oh man, this is kind of clunky exposition. But I do think I need to remind myself like I'm a Star Wars podcaster watching it, and in terms of setting up the second season of a series, again with an audience that's ranged from watched a few, watched all of them, binged them, whatever. That was fairly.
I heard Baby Yoda's cool. Let me check out an episode.
Yeah, fairly elegant and quick to like bring you up to speed of like, I'm trying to get him home to his people, and it sets up like the Beskar armor, really really well, and that like they've kind of established a new way or a new reason that there's like a secondary price on the Mando's head. He's like walking around in essentially like gold plated, gold plated.
It's like no matter what, he's going to draw attention because he's a Mandalorian and because they walk around in the most expensive metal there is.
Yeah. It's so I
almost daring people to take it.
I thought that it was interesting because I feel like there's a major like, I don't know how to describe it. There's like a major pill you have to swallow for this episode to work, and it's like a tonal thing. And I feel like the cold open is great, but it shows us a little bit like a slightly different Mandalorian than we get later in the episode. And I think if you're down for that, it works, I
don't know that I quite get what you're saying, Sam, like tonally in what sense.
I understand what you mean. Like it opens with like the ruthless Mandalorian, it ends with the like, hey, like fair, I'll do anything I have to save this town, Mandalorian.
That's true.
I mean, he literally does the Tony Stark Leviathan move from Avengers 1, or the Jonah and the whale moment. But like I'm actually specifically, I was talking about like in the bar when he meets, I mean, the Timothy Oliphant's character who we meet very
You're
shortly
jumping too
after.
far ahead, Sam.
Well, that's okay.
Hold on. He says he has to go to Tatooine. He gets in the ship. Amy Sedaris is there. She's great. 1, 2, skip a few. He goes to a town that's not supposed to be there. Timothy Oliphant shows up.
No. Let's go back.
There's really nothing else, though.
There's some
yes,
droid.
You are forgetting something
slapstick.
incredibly important. How many times can you yada yada R5? Like, let's not drive past
Oh my God,
R5.
that lingering shot to show us that it is that R5.
Which is actually hilarious to me because they did it in season 1 with him in the cantina in Tatooine. Why did you have to do it again?
So funny. I was like, is anyone, like, someone who doesn't know that that's R5? Like, the R5?
Well, and then
are
she
they
uses
like, why
the
are
same...
we looking at this droid's head?
She uses the same line. She says it's so difficult to get, like, good help these days. Yeah. Doesn't she?
Oh, is that? Yeah, she does say that. I don't know.
No, but continue, Sam. I think
I liked Amy
He's
Sedaris
right. Let's get to the
better in season 1 than in this scene in season 2. I think. Like, I don't know. This one felt like maybe it's the direction. Maybe it's the fact that like there's really like there was no dynamism to the scene. There was no like camera movement. It was just like, hey, we just set the camera up and let Amy go.
The cool thing about it to me is simply that we are getting comfortable with a cast of characters, and we are showing that the Mandalorian like has his his group of people.
Yeah, that
it's like
agree
he's
with.
back. She's glad to see him. He's like friendly with her. They are clearly like simpatico. and like he's no longer it's just showing that he's no longer like "Meh, whatever."
Yeah.
Like he's asking someone for information, and he's like, "You're my friend."
I think I minded it more the first time we saw her in season 1, just because I felt like it was a little over the top. This time it's like, no, now I'm used to it. I'm used to what they're doing with that character, so it didn't bother me.
Well, whichever the case, I love Amy Sedaris, and I
She's
do
the best.
like I'm so down for her to like get to be like really broad and slapsticky in this, and just like go full character. Like, go ahead, do it. Like, this is fun. We love you. We're all here for it. It's a short scene, so if it doesn't work for you, it's not gonna like take forever to get through.
He
But
hops on a speeder bike.
She sends him to Moss. Damn it! I
It's
thought
like
I had
Elgo.
it. Elgo.
It was like,
I was gonna
it
say
was a Pelgo. It's like P. Starts with
Pelgos.
P, doesn't it?
yeah, Pelgos, Pescos.
I mean, okay, we don't need to.
Most Pelgos, and he is inquiring.
He
about,
hops on a speeder bike. Speeder bikes, right? Wow, Baby Yoda's in the back of the speeder bike. It's very cute. He arrives in town.
his
Moss
ears.
Pelgo. It's Pelgo.
Moss
Pelgo.
Okay.
Great.
The
Well,
town is
taking
not
the-
on maps. They say that it's been taken over by bandits.
It's really funny because they make a clear point about how it's not on maps, and then they pull it up on a map in the same scene.
But they couldn't see it on the map, though. I mean, R5 didn't have it.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So then Timothy
Yeah.
Oliphant walks in, and I have feelings.
Well, before before that,
Oh my god.
he's talking to the bartender, and the bartender says, "Oh, you're looking for the Mandalorian? What's he look like? He looks like me." "Oh yeah, you must be the Marshal." And so we meet the Marshal, and the Marshal comes in, and it's like, "Oh, is this Boba Fett? Boba Fett?" Because he's wearing like the Boba Fett armor that we last saw going down a Sarlacc's gullet.
Hopefully purposefully ill-fitting.
Little
Yeah.
ill-fitting.
No, I think
It's
was
like
purpose.
kind of
I think
funny
it was-
how ill-fitting it is.
So I
little
thought it
s-
was purposefully. It looked like a kid who had picked it up on the side of the road and put it on, and
Yeah.
I think they did that with intention.
They
Yeah, and he
absolutely
has
did.
like the red turtleneck thing on, and it
And you can
looks very
see-
funny.
you
Timothy
can see his
Oliphant
chin.
also is a very tall, long man.
Very tall. Extraordinarily tall. in
Very
this.
narrow, though. I noticed it because he had the big helmet on. That I was like, he's a very like narrow-shouldered man.
Oh, no, that.
Also-
well, you know what? Yeah, I think he did.
Also,
Oh,
I'll
yeah?
say it. I thought he was terrible in this show. He's an actor I like a lot.
I actually agree with you for the most part. I thought he was better.
The fact that they had a Star Wars character playing the Marshal doing a like, "Hey, what are you doing in my town?" kind of thing was insane to me.
This is where. Well, okay, sorry. So, I'm with
Getting
you because
texts
I had
from my wife about how wrong I am.
I had some Oliphant issues. What really brought it back for me though,
I think the man is Olifantastic.
is how handsome. I'm gonna wait. Sorry, we'll pause and give you credit for that. Nice. Okay, I think he is so unbelievably gorgeous and handsome that it's like, I don't mind looking at him. But I don't think this is like. I don't think it's his performance that's the problem. I think the problem is that they like somebody was like.
Cast him.
Somebody was like, "Hey, Star Wars is a Western. Let's do an old, like, ghost town Western episode. Cool. We'll make it real Westerny. Great. Get the guy from Deadwood.
bring in
Cool.
the guy
Have
from
him do the cowboy thing again. Have him do the Justified thing again." And he, like, goes fully into it. And it's like, I don't think that's a performance fault. I think that's, like, a direction and conception fault where it's just like, this is too much. Like Star Wars
like,
is
I
a
think-
Western thematically or like genre wise. It's not like
they
not like in the American Southwest.
no, they
you know?
went full on Western and including the spit can, which
Yeah,
why?
like I found it obnoxious.
yeah, that
And
was
I think that Timothy Oliphant is an actor who is very witty, has great comic timing, and his like secret magic is that he could play sleazy decency.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
you don't believe that he's evil, but there's something kind of off about him, where you're just like, he's a little sleazy.
Yep.
And I think that that's like his magic sauce. And instead, they made him like this kind of like buffoonish, literally Marshal, like Western Marshal. But not to the point that it like made me not like the episode. I actually loved the episode. I just thought like, why couldn't they just let him like not do an accent? Like
Well,
literally like a movie accent. I understand that people in Star Wars have like British accents and American accents, but making it like an accent from an American kind of movie, like an accent that doesn't actually exist, like a Western accent. It's not like he's like, I did it like I'm from Texas. He did it like he was in a Western movie.
I don't know. I think he did it in the way that, like, when he's in a random episode of The Good Place, not trying to do anything, it sounded the same. Or when he was in The Office for a 3-episode stint. I honestly just don't think he tried.
I mean, I certainly don't want to put that on Oliphant, but I think it was a miscast. That's just what I think. They obviously should have gotten Walton Goggins Jr.
I don't. Well, it's the same move, right? And I don't.
No, that
I
was
don't
the
agree.
joke. That was the joke.
Right?
Because
no,
it would have been
the
the same thing. He would have been like, "Hi, y'all."
Right, and I'm saying I don't agree that it was miscast. I think he was perfectly cast for a terribly conceived role that doesn't fit in Star Wars. It's not Star Wars.
I think that there's a way to do this role. Just like
if you cast him, and like you say, Ryan, if you lean into that sort of like weirdly like kind of righteous, ultimately a good guy charm, but kind of sleazy, kind of sleazeball-y, you get Han Solo. And you know what I mean? And that could have been a really cool, like, this guy comes in, if this Marshal of a town who's got Mandalorian armor struts in and, and enters the conversation as though he's holding every ace, even though he's got, a handful of twos. That's a poker reference, which maybe should have been Sabak, but I don't know what those cards are. But basically a guy with, like, who plays it like he's got the winning hand when he's got nothing. Like, that's what Oliphant should have been doing, and it wasn't.
Here's an issue I had. There's a few issues I had, and a thing that I really liked about his kind of the things surrounding his character. The first is that they tried to establish this idea that just by utilizing a set of Mandalorian armor, that it is so powerful and protective that, like, it would make the difference in protecting an entire town. They told us that without really showing us that. Like, it's a stretch that they're trying. It's a lot of, like, legwork they're trying to do with just the fact that he, like, accrued a set of Mandalorian armor, and so he was able to protect the town. If you look at him, there's a lot of vulnerable spots on his body, especially since the armor's far too small on him. The second thing that I didn't like, when he shoots the rocket out of his jetpack, why does he have to bend down? He's doing a tracking thing anyway. That just annoys me. That's a nitpick.
Well, has there been any other instance in Star Wars where we've seen a Mandalorian bend down to shoot the rocket? That's the only thing I can think of.
It looks stupid to me. But
I think
that was basically
that is what you do. Sorry. I want to answer the question. Yes, Jango Fett, when he shoots his rocket at Obi-Wan in Attack of the Clones, the movie that I watch the most of all the Star Wars canon.
He does. Yeah, you're right. Rocket technology hasn't advanced at all in 25 years.
Well,
oh my god.
I mean, Ryan, you really do. For liking this episode, you got a lot of things you don't like about this episode.
But here's the thing that I very much liked is that when he shows the flashback, they established that on the night that the second Death Star was after the Battle of Endor, when news got out that once it was clear that the Empire was no longer in charge of the galaxy, that immediately it opened the door for criminals, like criminal, they call them bandits, like the criminal organizations on the outer rim that the Empire was keeping in check now saw an opportunity to take over small towns. And I thought that was a very interesting, cool thing to introduce into Star Wars, which is that you have all of these kind of like low level like
the mining
criminal
guild
organizations, like the mining mob and like all this come in and they take over towns because they're saying like the only thing that was keeping us in check is now gone, and that they did it immediately. I thought that was an interesting thing to introduce.
Are you talking about this episode, or are you talking about the way things are going to go next week after a certain regime falls and everything changes?
I like that element too, Ryan. I like that. The problem for me with this scene is how we've introduced Timothy Oliphant. We jumped ahead to kind of like his origin a little bit of like how he came to have the armor, but like the big tip off is that he shows up wearing ill-fitting Boba Fett armor the Mando's trying to like suss out like and talking to him like another Mandalorian, and he immediately removes his helmet. So like we know this guy's not a real Mando. He owns up to it. He's like, "You're probably pretty mad I have this armor," and they're about to duel like high noon. Like we know the Mandalorian's going to kill this guy because this guy can't possibly kill our Mando, and then this giant beast that's been terrorizing this town shows up. And then the problem I have tonally with this episode is that like the Mando stays and helps. I like don't buy it. He's like, I'll give you the armor if like they form a partnership to take down this like dragon together, and he'll in exchange for the armor that Oliphant has, you know, gotten through ill meaning gains or whatever. And
that
I'm like,
the Mandalorian could essentially easily take.
Well, and we just saw him like cold-bloodedly like leave a guy to die hanging upside down. And it's like this guy is being flippant and like was ready to kill you. Like you were both doing a standoff. And then like why like I just didn't buy. I was like this
Sam,
doesn't fit the tone of this episode or the show or the character. And it
Sam,
really bothered me.
I agree with you on part of that. I agree with you on the part that they had just shown him string up someone to die. That doesn't fit with later. But what they've built in The Mandalorian, especially through the entire first season, but also through the Clone Wars, and the level of respect they have for their armor, especially even when you think of episode 7 from season 1, where Mando wasn't ready to leave Navarro before he had salvaged everything he could from the armor of the Mandalorians who had been killed. I absolutely believe that he would be completely committed to getting that armor back for the respect of his kind.
Right. So just shoot the
I
guy
also
in the
think
neck
the
and then take
character.
it.
I think the character has grown to be more kind to
Exactly,
people. So to me, the problem isn't in this scene. The problem is in him leaving that guy to be killed by the
which is
beasts
exactly
in the alley.
That's what I'm trying to say. Is that
Which
like
is
Sam,
like interesting. I didn't think of it when we were talking about it, but when I was watching the show, there was like a ping to me that he was like, "You can't just leave me strung up here," and he's like, "That wasn't part of the deal." And like at first, it seems like the implication is like someone will come along and like let you down, like you annoy me. But then when he shoots out the light and you see that he's going to be eaten alive, that's where I was like, that's like a little cruel for the person that like we've gotten to know from the last season.
But
which
I
is
also,
that part that I agree with you on, Sam. Like that aspect of it doesn't feel right.
But well, yeah, and I guess that wasn't the part that bothered me because I still felt like even at the end of the season, like I still felt like we had a Mandalorian who very much operated in a world where I guess he doesn't kill a ton of. Yeah, maybe you guys are right. I guess so. It's what's interesting, I guess, about it is for me that opening scene wasn't the scene that rang false. It did feel cold. It did feel like dang, he's killing this guy or letting him die rather, which is like not cool. But the scene that rang false for me was him agreeing to help because I think all they needed to do was make it something where he was like, he was more put upon or it was more of a chore, right? For him to like do it. Like basically like, I just didn't buy that he would do it when all he had to do was take the armor from that guy who had it wrongfully and it wasn't his.
Yeah, but I think if for us, and Sam, I totally get, the perspective with the way that they've set that up. But I think if you remove who he was in that opening cold open, then it seemed completely consistent that he's no longer willing to kill in cold blood just to get something.
It's something that we would take as a given, as like, oh, he's gone through some character growth when we weren't with him. So what we're saying is there's just like an inconsistency here.
There's an inconsistency, and it really it kind of broke the episode for me. Like I'd say that I was on the side of like I don't think I liked this episode. I really like. I kind of want to rewatch it because like I liked a bunch of parts of it, but I was like, I don't know.
This is where we end up in 6 months, and this is the best episode Sam's ever seen. Like he flipped on Solo, he used to love it, now he hates it.
He wants a sequel. Season 2, episode 1, 2. He's making a hashtag. So they enter into agreement to take
Release
down the dragon.
Snyder cut.
The sand dragon, essentially, which is cool because in terms of Easter eggs, the sound that the dragon makes is the sound that Obi-Wan uses to scare away the Tusken Raiders.
Is it?
In
I didn't even
4.
realize that.
And he pretends to
wow.
be one of those things when he's like
No,
coming over
boy.
the ridge.
That is cool. I
Yeah,
like
so that's
that.
a cool thing because a huge part of this episode is that the Tusken Raiders are being absolutely terrorized by this thing. They show that they feed it banthas to keep it asleep, and that it doesn't always work, which is a very funny scene.
That was that was good humor. That was like maybe the one
Oliphant's
joke
timing
that
in that
landed
scene.
for me.
Oliphant's timing, where he's like, they might be open to some fresh ideas, was very funny. And I think that the way that they, we haven't spent a lot of time with Tusken Raiders aside from when they attack Luke and kidnap Shmi.
Or get strucken down by Anakin.
Right. So to see like their culture a little bit and how the Mandalorian interacts with them, he speaks their language, which is cool. I really liked that stuff. And like, it's like a classic, again, like Kung Fu or Xena Warrior Princess Hercules episode where it's like the town has to get along with their enemies, and like the Mandalorian's the only one who could like teach them how to do that. And they kind of like formulate a plan to take down this big dragon beast that they imply has eaten a Sarlacc.
It was really fun to me that they spent the time around the fire doing so much sign language and Tusken, translations, because that felt like something that most people would be like, why am I watching this? Most average people wouldn't sit through that. And that felt very Star Wars to me to do something as deeply involved as that was.
I hated that scene. I was like, why am I watching this? I
hate
couldn't
you,
wait
Sam.
for it to end. I'm not kidding. I really thought I was like, it's unpleasant sounds. I didn't like it.
Did you like the Jawas scene? I like the Jawas scene.
The Jawa scene was hilarious because they say that he names the crystal like whatever it was, Silicalax or something, and then like
Sucra or something?
And then you hear them like mutter it. Oh, I loved it.
I
and
just
then,
love
they're
this
like
like
bringing
idea
out
that
everything.
Jawas like really value and love these like really weird things,
Yeah,
like the egg and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But see, so I did love that scene, but I also thought of the egg scene from season 1, episode 2, and I was like, that was better. I like the egg thing better,
Well, it's just funny that we don't know what those crystals are worth just like in the world, assumedly a lot because they were in one of those containers and he bothered to carry them, but he trades them for for a Beskar armor.
Right.
That apparently, in the hands of anyone, could defeat anything.
I don't know if it's like I didn't get the sense that it was an automatic I am now just as good a warrior as a Mandalorian. It just felt like he had nothing before. Literally, we didn't see him have a weapon or anything, and now he's got something that gives him a little advantage. But I'm not saying I don't see it that way, but I don't see where you're coming from.
His character was kind of a buffoon. It didn't strike me as the only thing that this guy needs is a weapon, and he'd be unstoppable.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that was. I also don't think it was him having the weapon. I think it was the intimidation factor.
It was the fact that they're did you hear they have a Mandalore?
When he walked in the flashback scene, when he walks in and the mining guild people are all there, mining company, whatever mob is all there, they all freeze and panic because they see a Mandalorian walk in, and then and the bartender too, because he doesn't know who's under it, which is insane because who else wears that shirt and is that tall? But it's your best friend who saved your life last night. But the gun then was he's capable with a gun is all that mattered, and it's they were so scared they couldn't even get it together to defend themselves. That was my take on it anyway. I'm more with Ryan that he was a little more of the buffoon type. But that the reputation that armor bought him was valuable, and in protecting the town.
Right. So they strike up a plan with the town to take out the dragon.
Before we leave from that, Ryan,
I
want to say Favreau does like to pay homage to himself with the rocket shot of destroying the speeder that was far away from him.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty much exactly the same shot from Iron Man.
Right.
The whole episode was Iron Man. This whole episode was just friggin' Iron Man. It was
So
what do you mean the whole episode was Iron Man?
He just loves dudes in armored suits with little gizmos and things that go
I mean, that's the series. I don't think the episode is Iron Man.
I think the episode's kind of Iron
Yeah, I'm not
Man-y.
sure I can follow you down this path, but
That's fine. That's fine.
okay,
Chris,
man.
Chris has
Like,
my back.
You could say a
so-
season 1 episode was Iron Man.
Okay.
Well, the hammering of the actual
guys, Tony
suit of armor.
Don't you get it though? The villain is Tony. You know? Anyway, so they form a plan. The Tusken Raiders and the townsfolk, they get together. They have to put aside their differences for a common goal. There are many casualties when the dragon comes out. There's a big action scene. They make jetpacks actually look pretty good. Which
jetpacks
is a hard
did look
thing to
good.
do.
It was solid.
And it's a hard thing to do. Usually those things look like crap and they look good.
You know where he
and
learned
then-
it?
Where they
Do
learned it?
you know where he learned how to do that?
Iron Man.
When he made Iron Man.
Yeah. So,
But yet he didn't
there's
do
a
that
big
well
action
in
sequence.
season 1.
It's very entertaining. It's very well done. It's very cohesive. And then the Mandalorian inexplicably attempts to sacrifice himself to save this town full of people that he's known for about 5 minutes, and ends up defeating the beast.
I was trying to figure out why, Ryan, you were moving us so far ahead so quickly, and now I know why, because you wanted to get to talk about why the hell he did that.
Well, also because I mean, the episode has to be a decent length, but also we can talk about whatever you guys want to. I don't think that there was really anything aside from like if we want to go shot for shot, like what the dragon does. To me, it's like a bunch of people fight a big thing. It's like I don't really know.
You
what
didn't
else
have
there is
interest
to
in the
it.
fact that Anakin's pod racer was used as a now speeder?
Yeah, that was cute.
I did really like that. I like that felt super Star Wars to me, reusing found objects to like cobble together a new object.
It was also like a funny penis joke, if you really think about it. You know what I mean? Like the Mandalorian is like on his like normal speeder, and then this guy comes up on his like extra big speeder that he's like compensating for. He's like this imposter. I thought it was like very clearly a penis joke.
Star Wars, I always have my kid brain on. Wasn't thinking that way, but now I will not be able to not see it.
I think I think Ryan's right because I think
I'm sure he is.
Oliphant gives like a look, like
Yeah,
like
it's very like it's almost like a Johnny Bravo like take.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
yeah, it's very broad. I liked that element. I thought the dragon looked dope. I thought it
Yeah,
looked
I thought
amazing,
so,
and
too.
like they did some wide shots, which were clearly very expensive, big CGI budget shots, and they looked awesome.
It looked really
They
good.
look
I agree.
really, really good.
The acid spit looked really bad, but otherwise looked
I
awesome.
didn't
I
think
thought
it
it
looked
looked
that
okay. I didn't think it looked like amazing, but
Dragon
I thought
has
it was
acid spit instead of flame breath. That's for our listeners. That's what it has. In addition to being
I
big
mean, I would
and eating.
think they would have
people.
seen the episode by now if they're listening to this part.
No way.
no.
Not my audience.
That was what I was talking about early in the episode. And the interesting thing was the moment that they have the 3 Tusken Raiders trying to bring them out when they've actually got everything set up for their plan, it shifts from widescreen to full screen, almost as if they were trying to mimic IMAX, even though it's not IMAX.
I noticed that. I didn't notice it
Yeah.
then, but I noticed at the end
I
when it
noticed
went
at the
back
end when
to
it went back.
widescreen. And
Yeah.
I was like, huh?
Well, I had to watch this episode of pieces because, sometimes you got to go do work. And I came back. I was like, has the whole episode been like this? Has it all been widescreen? I didn't think it was full screen the whole time. And then, yeah, it was kind of, I liked it. It almost made me just feel a little bit more immersed.
I wish
I
they
didn't-
had committed to an aspect ratio. I'm going to be honest.
I'm not surprised. I feel like most people
That
would.
sounds like something I'd say. Yeah.
I think like most media that does this, like that has the IMAX, sections or whatever, I never notice when it goes to IMAX or to the like taller format. I only notice when it goes back. And so there's a part of me that's just like, especially in this episode, because it only goes back literally as he's like riding off into the sun's set. And I'm like, why didn't you just keep it, for this one? Was it because the credit art was laid out in 16:9 or something?
Yeah.
Well,
It's like
yeah.
it reminds me of like, remember on old VHSs that were in full screen, like for the credits they would just go down to widescreen because they hadn't cropped it correctly,
Right.
Yeah.
and you'd be like, "Whoa, have I been watching it like this the whole time?" So that's fun.
But
I
I
had to
did
say-
notice it going back. Yeah, that was cool.
I have to say that earlier in the episode, maybe right before they started their big battle with the dragon, I was like, oh man, it's just like, everything that's going to happen in this. It's so predictable. And then 5 minutes later, I was like, okay, I didn't expect him to give himself up, and that was a bit crazy. But there was a moment that flashed in my brain that I know was absurd of like, is Timothy Oliphant going to be the new lead of this series?
That'd
and
be
obviously
wild
that
if
wasn't
there was
going
like
to
a
happen.
handoff.
Yeah, I was like, but like, could they potentially try it because they've got Oliphant, and this could be their way around the whole can't take off the helmet and have someone actually have their face be in the lead of the show. I didn't think they would really do it, but it was just like this flash in my head that like if they wanted to transition so they could have a lead actor and lead character who you could actually see their face, they could do it there. And actually, the last thing I want to say about Oliphant, I just don't think they tried very hard to make him look like he wasn't in modern day America. Like his haircut just seemed like he was at a bar.
Yeah, it looked like he stopped. It looks like they had him for like half a day and they stopped.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But also though, like his hair like looked great. Right?
Oh, it looks great.
That's
just
exactly
doesn't
what someone's hair looks like when they take a helmet off.
it doesn't look right for Star Wars. Like,
do you think
I'm
when
with you.
John Wayne's grandson was reading that scene, he was sweating? He's like, "Oh my god, they got Oliphant." Here's the thing that like really bugged me. So like if he had just like done this plan and gotten eaten by the thing and had said nothing, like I would have assumed that the Mandalorian knew that like the acid wouldn't burn through the Beskar, and he's just like, I'll just do this. Like I'll just go in, blow it up, and come out, and fly away. And like that was his plan. But the fact that he says like take care of the child, I was like, wait, that's where we are emotionally at this point? That he's like telling this dude, we've spent a whole season of him protecting the child, like him having this whole like character turnaround that he needs to take care of this kid and like get the child to the sorcerers, the space sorcerers. And at this point, after knowing this dude for half a day, he's like, take care of the child for me. I'm like willing to just like die.
Well, also the only time he was ever like previously going to part with the child was when he like, he found that like village of like people who were like loving and caring and warm and Cara Dune was there, who was like her own like protector and like someone trustworthy that he like knew would be safe. And it's like here he met this like ding dong who's like marshaling a town in stolen armor.
With a town full of pardon me, a town full of idiots.
Yeah, complete morons, completely useless morons. And he's like, yeah, that rang really false for me, Ryan, too. Like I was like, I don't know if he just meant like I actively was wondering that would make more sense. First of all, I was also wondering. I was like, does he mean like for the moment? But it didn't read like that. Like they played it like he meant like look after him, as opposed to like protect him from whatever happens next.
Yeah, because he would have said like, hey, watch the child for a minute. I'm going to do a thing.
Well, they played it for the drama of that scene rather than the actual sensibility of the entire show and character and series.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not the way you should do any of this. That all being said, guys, stop making Star Wars less fun. I just wanted to have
It worked
fun.
moment to moment for me. These are
don't
things
be
that I'm thinking
beholden
of
to. Don't put it on me. You can have fun without me.
No, I still had a great time. That's the thing, is that like this show is like a warm blanket. Like I still had a great time, and moment to moment it all worked. It's that when I think about the ramifications of what's happening, I realize that maybe Jon Favreau isn't that great of a writer. But that's neither here nor there.
Well, now Ryan,
do you hear this?
Never said something like that before.
That's the sound of plated Beskar with a chef logo on it.
Are we going to do this every episode too?
You betcha, baby.
Do we talk about the final shot
at the end?
Oh, there we go. Yeah,
let's get to that final shot now.
And
the
then
twin
we got a
suns
message from
pass
Chris.
by. Yeah, well, we have a message from Chris who couldn't join us on the episode, but we're going to hear from him. The twin suns pass by as we see the Mandalorian leave with the armor of Boba Fett. Where he's going, we don't know. He doesn't have any other leads on another Mandalorian, or does he? Are we looking at the silhouette of Boba Fett? Or is it potentially one of a myriad of other clones from who were played by the character that we saw, by the actor in Tamura Morrison, who we saw at the end of this episode? Now, we know that he was back.
Aquaman's stepdad?
Yeah, Aquaman's stepdad. Wait, was he stepdad or was his actual dad?
Oh, no, it was his dad. You're right.
Yeah, it was his actual
dad. Are you talking about Aquaman's dad?
Yeah, Aquaman's dad.
Aquadad.
But he's there, and he's he's obviously made some connection with the Tusken Raiders because he's got one of their weapons. And we're meant to think. I think Brian, you and I both had the same thought, like, oh, there's a nice shadowy mystery figure, and then you think more like, oh, that's the same actor who played Jango Fett, and the same all the clones. Is this Boba Fett somehow surviving the Sarlacc pit, or is this one of the many clones that we know? Rex, Cody, all the clones who were left from the Clone War. I don't think that it's definitive. I know, Sam, you felt like it was a little bit more clear that maybe it is Boba Fett.
No, well, okay, so I had previously read a report when they announced his casting. It was announced with like actual headlines from real sources, the Hollywood Reporter, Variety, Deadline. These places reported it as Tamura Morrison has been cast to play Boba Fett in The Mandalorian. Like full stop, that name. So that's why I was like certain of it. And it's reinforced by the idea that this is decidedly on Tatooine. He's not wearing the armor. That armor has appeared in the episode. Like,
why bring in Boba Fett's armor if it's not Boba Fett?
Exactly. Like within the logic of the episode, it's like kind of leaning us to believe, like, could he have survived? And then it shows a way that he could have survived by what the Mando does in the episode. Like, it all, again, I don't know. So nothing in the episode says definitively one way or the other. Is this a clone or is this Boba Fett? I came in hot being like, yeah, it's Boba Fett because they announced it. And then I read further and it was like, sources claim he's playing Boba Fett. So maybe there's a bit more nebulous than I thought. But look, the guy looks great. It's kind of exciting, the idea. Like, I would like it to be Boba Fett personally, just because I think, I don't know. I think it'd be interesting. I think it'd be fun. Like, he's kind of the reason for the season in terms of like Mandalorians being a thing.
I think it'd be great. I love Boba Fett as a character, but I'm not precious about him. So
Same.
It's like, I'm like, yeah, they could do whatever they want.
I think it's cool. He looks cool. He's in this like robe with a hood. Now, I did have a little bit of an issue. Like, if he's there and like watching and observing this, and he watched the Mandalorian like retrieve his armor, which the Mandalorian could have just killed that dude, Oliphant, real easy. Why didn't he? Because he could have just done that. He could have just walked into town, been like, hey, that's my armor. And Oliphant probably would have like filled his pants because he would have been so scared of like, oh, you're the guy who actually wears this and like knows how to use it, right?
See, that's why I don't think it's Boba Fett. I don't think it's him. I think it's Rex. I think it's a clone. I think it's Cody, maybe. No, Cody. Cody from Obi-Wan connection.
I didn't remember that one of them was named Cody.
Cody, thanks, Cody. We have a battle to win.
But remember, there was a deep. Well, I mean, it was a pretty close relationship between Obi-Wan and Cody.
Yeah, Cody was like his like. If
Right-hand
Obi-Wan was
trooper.
a general, which is what the Jedi were, like he was his. I don't know why I started this.
Yeah,
Admiral,
boy.
I don't know. Whatever, Captain. But yeah, he was like, thanks, Cody. We have a battle to win. Like Cody was his guy.
He was General Kenobi, right?
General Kenobi, yeah.
Isn't that
I'm
what
with you
Grievous
guys.
always says?
I know it's a real thing. I'm just saying, like, that's kind of funny. Like,
Oh, yeah.
like, it's just like
It's
just
like
like
if
a
one of their
regular
names
name.
was Steve.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe it's like
K-O-T-I.
I was gonna say maybe it's like K-O-D-E-E or something.
I think I've seen it spelled out. It's just C-O-D-Y.
Wild. I mean, it's a fine name. If there's any Codys out there, we're fine with that. Steve's
You're
also.
a long-time listener.
So, I mean, it opens up a mystery for the season, hopefully, that they'll probably ignore for the next 4 episodes
Well, yeah,
while
exactly.
they do bottle episodes that we're all confused by. But you know what? The Mandalorian's back. It felt great to be watching it. Truly, like, I got up early this morning. I was excited to watch it. It felt great to watch. It moved nicely. It's a warm blanket of a show. And I think that, if last season is any indication, it'll only grow richer as the season goes on. And I love that they're tying in all of these elements of different parts of Star Wars. They're pulling from the original trilogy. They're pulling from the animated series. They're pulling from the prequels. I think that's great.
I really thought that it built to... I wasn't having as much fun until they got to the final sequence because of the things that we were talking about and how Oliphant just felt out of place it just didn't really seem like that character fit in Star Wars.
Yeah.
And then as they got to what the mission was and what they needed to do, I was like, all right, well, now I'm just having fun. And that was great. And I really love that.
We talk about these things in depth because we love them. It's like all the complaints I have, strangely, I know that this sounds contradictory, but it doesn't affect my enjoyment of the show. It's just like more of an observation of like things that do and do not work about it to me.
Well, it's like you watch
agree
it,
with
you have
that.
fun, and then afterwards you think about it and you analyze. That's what
It's
we
like
do
a Christopher Nolan movie, where you're like, this is so great, and then afterwards you're like, did that suck? Except this doesn't suck. This is great. I think it's just like, these are the things that we think about. With Star Wars.
We have to do that. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a pod. There wouldn't be a point to any of it. I watched this in my car. I got up this morning. It was alternate side parking, so I double parked for an hour and a half, and for 40 or 45 blissful minutes of that, I watched this on my iPad in my car. I was freezing. I had to turn the heat on at one point because it was really cold and rainy in New York today.
Yeah.
But it was the first time since my baby was born that I watched anything, and it was pretty nice. It was pretty nice. I had a good time. So
that sounds good.
Here's my review.
Mikey's breaking down.
Oh boy.
Here's my review. Thumbs up.
Do we want to hear what Chris has to say?
Yeah, let's hear it.
More than anything.
I'm going to play it through the mic so you guys can hear.
Love it.
Hey guys, sorry I couldn't be there, but holy, how about that episode? That is exactly what I was looking for in this time of need. Things that I loved all the little Easter eggs. The ice cream machine was back. I'm coming in hot and fresh here. Love that the pod racer, his speeder, Timothy Olyphant's speeder, was made out of old pod racer parts. I think the tone of the episode was great. I think I was not distracted by all the volume elements. Even I was tricked at some points. It looked like they did a lot of landscape shots, a lot of far panning shots. It reminded me of the old Tatooine. Happy with the episode. Can't wait for more. And then that reveal. The reveal at the end. It all ties in together. We were talking with some other friends. Think about it. They set up the trap for us. They showed us the rules of the game. Mando went inside that Sarlacc monster. But I guess my only question is, was I watching an episode of Tremors, the TV show, or was I watching Mando? Hey, that's it. LOL. Lots of love. Chris out. Guys, Jizz Band practice is back on.
He didn't have time to come on the show today.
I gotta say, I thought about Tremors in the episode. I'm glad Chris brought it up here because it was very Tremors. Where was Kevin Bacon?
I thought, is it going to be one of those butthole worms from the Dune trailer?
I thought about Dune. I was like, oh man, they must be really happy that Dune got pushed for another year.
You highfalutin fellas with your Dune. I'm over here with my Tremors. Chris and I loving the Tremors.
It's all the same thing.
Yeah.
It's all the same. Sandworm.
Well, guys, it's Mando season, This is great stuff.
Hey,
I'm excited that it's back. I was looking forward to it. It delivered to me. I know that we, pointed out things that we didn't like about it, but that doesn't mean we didn't like it.
I had a lot of fun. Really
I can
did.
like something and not like parts of it. For sure.
Yeah.
Well, that will do it for this episode 1 breakdown of The Mandalorian Season 2. Join us again next week. If there is still a next week, we'll see how that plays out. And we'll be talking about episode 2 and hopefully brighter days ahead. What do they say on Batuu? Bright suns? Something like that? Twin suns?
Sounds right. Sounds right to me. Twin bright suns.
Twin bright suns and 4 more years of winter.
Well, this has been The Droid You're Looking For, a Star Wars podcast.
What they
you boys want to go to Los Pelgos?